Yes. What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell is wrong with you?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of Ryno's Rants. Plenty to rant about this week. Good evening, Josh. Good evening, everybody else joining us here. Before we get into the Vikings task at hand, I've got one thing that I need to really rant about, not Vikings related at all, but to the NFL media. Nobody gives a shit if Taylor Swift is sitting in the press box at a Kansas City Chiefs game. Jesus Christ, I saw that every 30 seconds yesterday when I was trying to watch the Kansas City-Chicago game. You are going to make me hate the Kansas City Chiefs if you continue to do that crap every time Taylor Swift comes and visits her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, and sits in a press box during a Kansas City Chiefs game. Nobody cares. We turned it on to watch football, not to see what celebrity is sitting in a seat someplace in the stadium. Rant over on that. Josh, is it time to burn the ships yet? It's getting close. It is getting very, very close. I honestly don't know where to start with that game yesterday. So many stupid mistakes again, undisciplined, garbage, fumbles. We hold them to a 3-and-out on their first drive. We're driving down the damn field. Get down in the red zone. Turn the ball over. And then, and at the end of the game, we did the same thing. Drive down the red zone. Give up a turnover. We now have 9 turnovers in 3 games. Hey, good evening, James. 9 turnovers in 3 games is unsustainable. You're not going to win very many games when you're losing the turnover battle that badly. 9 giveaways to 2 takeaways. Definitely not a recipe for success. But let's start with probably the big thing. At least what I saw this weekend is, once again, the play calling. We were going up against the 32nd ranked pass offense in the Los Angeles Chargers. So what do we decide that we are going to do? Hey, Steven, good afternoon, good evening. What do we decide to do against the worst passing offense in the league? We decide we are going to establish the run. Now, to our credit, the run actually worked this week. We had 140 yards rushing total, I think, which is about 100 yards more than we'd had in the first 2 weeks combined. Good evening, Doc. 9 turnovers. We could easily be 3-0. We at very minimum should be 2-1, but yeah, I agree we should be 3-0 because we should have beaten all 3 of these teams that we have played so far. But with that, established the run stuff. We did not even attempt to throw a pass to Justin Jefferson in the first quarter. And then finally in the second quarter when we decided, maybe we should throw it his way, we had like 54 yards on 2 passes. Coaching cost us 2. Coaching, I think, yesterday was the main reason why we did not win that game. There was some of this just head-scratchingly infuriating situations in that game. For what all this stuff about last year when Kevin O'Connell talked about having his masterclass in situational football, they must have taken that masterclass and thrown it out the freaking window and lit it on fire because they are situational dunces this year. They're not even kindergarten on that stuff. Turnovers, stupid play calling. The last 2 minutes, we had the ball in the last 2 minutes of each half. And the clock management was god awful. I mean, it was so bad Mike Zimmer was shaking his head on how bad the clock management was. And not spiking the ball on either one of those drives to save time when we were short on timeouts. it makes absolutely no sense. You're wasting 20, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it was, standing around. Good evening, my worthless opinion. Standing there with your heads up your asses for 15 seconds, letting time run off the clock. And then you've got, at the end of the game, the Vikings are blaming the crowd for being loud. Well, the crowd was loud because Justin Jefferson had gone out injured 2 plays before, and on that play came back into the game. That's what the crowd was loud for. Second, Kirk Cousins saying, yes, he has the ability to clock the ball if he wants to, but you have to live with the consequences after that. That right there, that statement is what is wrong with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a physically gifted quarterback. If he had the correct mindset, if he had that alpha personality like a Brett Favre, like a Peyton Manning, like a Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins legitimately could be one of the better quarterbacks in NFL history. But in between here is what is holding him back from achieving that level of success. So scared about the consequences. You go out there and spike the ball and give your team an extra 2 shots at the end zone instead of rushing a pass that ends up being interception. Nobody is going to chew your ass out for clocking the ball at that point. Doc, sure, wasn't the only one going into full panic mode when JJ was down. Yeah, I think Vikings fan base all had a collective sphincter clinch at that point in time. But, and O'Connell coming with we thought we could catch him off guard on the defense. That there again, that is no place to try to get cute and to try to, do whatever. No, you were at the, what were we at, the 3-yard line? A bad decision not to spike it, but if he makes a catch, yeah, that's true, my worthless opinion, but the whole, regardless, that whole was a comedy of errors on that whole spot. Team needs accountability, lack of coaching. I agree 100% on that. I don't know that I agree on running the sneak there because our interior offensive line, they ran, to be fair, their run blocking was fairly decent, but from the 3-yard line, I don't think I run a quarterback sneak, but you've got CJ Ham, you've got Josh Oliver in there, you've got Alexander Madison, who granted had issues holding on to the ball itself, but you either line up power on power and you slam it in there to try to get it done, or you fake that and throw a little quick slant out in the flat to Jefferson or Addison or Hawkinson or whoever. If you just spike that ball, would have given you an extra 40 seconds to collect your thoughts and come up with the correct play at that situation. But no, you're trying to hurry up. You're trying to do all this stuff. The clock is running down. People are back and forth, running in and out and everything else. It was confusion beyond belief, and it was a very poor decision. I'm not going to blame Kirk for the loss because Cousins, for the most part, played pretty well once again. 350-some yards passing, 3 touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. Worthless opinion, realistically should have never gotten to that point last seconds of the game. No, we should not have. It should have been way out of the realm of that beforehand. Caleb Evans had that ball interception in his hands. He catches that ball instead of letting it go through and bounce into Keenan Allen's hands for a touchdown. That's game right there. So many other opportunities. Again, first half, we had opportunities to do this. The turnovers in the red zone early on, all that stuff. I don't like pinpointing it on one play in particular just because there's never just one play in a game that decides. It can be a handful of plays, but yeah, first time in at half-yard line, why turn and run the ball into a loaded box? That's a very good point. Learn how to do that tush-push deal that Philadelphia does that nobody can stop. Kirk is a big enough guy. He can do that. Why was Dalton not in the game for Ed Ingram? I don't know. Reisner was standing on the sidelines, suited up. He was active. But all of the pressure that Kirk Cousins got yesterday came over Ingram and Schlottman in that area in there. And the dumbest thing I saw today, PFF came out with its grades from yesterday. They graded Ed Ingram as the third highest player on the Vikings team. Stuff like that is why people do not trust analytics. They do not trust Pro Football Focus, because you look at those numbers and you look at the eye test and they are 180 degrees opposite of each other, because Ed Ingram looked like garbage out there on pass protection. They overrank run blocking and underrank pass protection. Ingram did just fine in run blocking yesterday, but he was absolute garbage when it came to pass protection, and that's what's going to get Kirk Cousins killed back there. Play calling was too predictable. Yeah, it was. I mean, Justin Jefferson ended up with 149 yards, so he got his yards out of there eventually, but when we didn't target him for the entire first quarter, it made no sense. I mean, okay, I get trying to establish the run, but do not give up on your strength and their weakness just to try to prove a point because you couldn't do it in your first 2 weeks. Still not seeing any real adjustments on either side. I don't really think we have, Doc. That was another thing on the defensive side yesterday. We blitzed at like a 52% clip, and we only got home once. We had some pressures and some hurries in there. Andre Carter II, he was in for like 13 or 19 snaps, something like that, and he had 3 pressures. Danielle Hunter got his 5th sack of the season on that strip sack, which unfortunately we didn't recover. Robert, defense against us are going to be trained to go after the ball until we can hang on to it. Absolutely. I was talking to somebody yesterday during the game, and we said the same damn thing. They need to start doing, when they're walking around the practice facility, need to do like they used to make us do in high school. You carry that ball with you, and if somebody knocks that ball out of your hands while you're carrying it around, you owe me 100 push-ups. Because, as you said right there, that narrative is out there now that the Vikings do not know how to hold on to the football, and it is going to be a problem until we prove that it's not going to be anymore. Hey, Billy the Kid is here. Good evening. What elite quarterback would not have stepped up and took over? They're having communications issues. Dude's been in the league 12 years, panicked and choked, no excuse. Absolutely. To the comment I made earlier in the show, Tom Brady at that point would have said, fuck it, and done it himself. Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, John Elway, Dan Marino, Fran Tarkenton, Tommy Kramer, Dante, hell, Christian Ponder would have done it. It's just Kirk has this irrational primal fear of getting in trouble or doing something wrong that he refuses to take the game by the nuts when he needs to do so. And that is Kirk Cousins' fatal flaw. We talked about that before. Kirk has all the physical talent in the world, except he's not the most mobile guy, but he's even mobile enough to be able to extend plays and stuff like that if he doesn't get in his own head. When he gets in his own head, good evening, G-Mac. Kirk seems to be playing scared, Doc. Absolutely. That's the deal. KOC needs to stop calling plays in crunch time. I'm starting to get to the point where I think Kevin O'Connell might need to step away from the play calling. Let Wes Phillips take care of it, and let O'Connell just focus on the game decisions, because if he can't make the simple decision to have Kirk spike the ball when you're out of timeouts and driving down to try to get points at the end of a half, if isn't going to have the stones to step up and do it himself, and O'Connell has to tell him that. O'Connell can't be sitting here trying to figure out what play he's going to run and all this other stuff and still babysit Kirk along the way. Jer, good evening. KOC is not giving up play calling. I don't think he is either, but that's not going to change the fact that I think they may need to consider it. The whole game KOC was to push the run. We should have played to win. His game plan was not to lose it. I think KOC's problem is he coaches kind of more reactionary than proactively. And the hit on the Vikings offense the first 2 weeks, they can't run the ball. They've got 42 yards rushing through 2 games. So we're not looking at the individual opponent, looking at the fact that the Chargers had the worst pass defense in the NFL. So no, we're gonna establish the run here first and show the NFL that we can run the ball, and completely ignore the fact that you could probably send Justin Jefferson on any damn route that he wanted to out there, and he was going to be open 90% of the time. You could send Hawkinson across the middle. Now, Hawkinson did have a couple of issues with holding on the ball yesterday, not all his fault, but Jordan Addison had another good day. I mean, Osborne had a couple of good catches, nice touchdown. Good evening, Brian. He'll keep his jaw longer if he's smart enough to give up play calling, GMAC. I can't argue with you on that one. Brian, this is a very good point here. When has mediocre become acceptable? Been a fan too long, tired of it, blow it up, start a true rebuild, and start fixing our damn lines to get some studs on defense. No one is unavailable, in my opinion. That is the problem. It's been around, and all credit in the world to the Wilfs. The Wilfs are willing to spend money on this team, get the team what it needs, what it wants, and all that kind of stuff. But the Wilfs have almost a primal fear of being a bad team. If you look at, we've been a bad team about twice, maybe 3 times in the entire time that the Wilfs have owned the team since 2006. But more often than not, we are in that mediocre middle of the road, 7-9, 10-6, 10-7, whatever, right in that. We're rarely great, but we're almost never bad, and we just fall right in that middle of mediocrity. And to Brian's point here, good enough is not good enough. Now, I mean, I understand this team needed to go through a rebuild. It still does need to go through a rebuild, because what Spielman and Zimmer left us with after the last 2 to 3 years they were here, with horrible drafts and bad contracts with aging players because of those horrible drafts, we can't expect all of that to be fixed overnight. So kind of knew that there was going to be some issues with this kind of stuff. Now, so I'm willing to give Kwesi more time to figure this out. I mean, we went 13-4 last year. It's way jumping the gun to start putting these guys on the hot seat yet, but there needs to be accountability for, what they're doing here. Moves are reactionary. Why not fix the O-line this offseason? I think they honestly thought that they would be able to get by, knowing full well that they were going to have issues in tight cap space here with having to offload contracts of like Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, that kind of stuff. I think they actually thought that a second year together with this group would help and make things better. Now, Ed Ingram has not progressed the way he probably should have. I mean, guards a lot of times do struggle when they first start, and then they'll take that jump the second year. Ed Ingram has not taken that jump. Re-signing Garrett Bradbury was a mistake. We talked about this, Lance and I did, in the offseason. The one concern was, was Bradbury going to revert back to his old ways after he got paid? We never got a chance to see if that was going to happen, because the more pressing issue was you don't re-sign, especially an interior offensive lineman who has back issues, because back issues do not get better. Lance had a very good comment the other night. He said, when have you ever talked to somebody that said, I used to have back issues, but they got better? They don't get better, especially when you're in that interior offensive line where you spend 90% of your time bent down and having to take that leverage through your back. It was stretching like a cramp. Yeah, from what I heard, Jared, it was a cramp for Jefferson, and that's why he was only out for a couple of plays. Robert, the record last year was a fluke. There's key veterans to save games. This year it's not there. Whether it was a fluke or not last year, we don't have to apologize for winning those 13 games last year. We don't have to give them back. The only thing that 13-win season probably did last year was unreasonably raise expectations for this year when we should have known, even though the front office is saying competitive rebuild, we should have realized that things are going to get a little shitty for this team for a year or two in order for them to climb their way back out of that quagmire that Spielman and Zimmer left us in. Now, I mean, with the offensive talent we have on offense, that offense should be able to keep us in games. The defensive side of things, I mean, we knew there's issues there. There's a lot of unproven players. The defensive line is terrible. You know, we brought Dean Lowry in, thinking he was going to, give some veteran presence and stuff to that offensive line. He's been almost non-existent so far this year. Harrison Phillips has had a few good plays this year. He's probably been the better guy. Jonathan Bullard finally stepped up this week and had a couple of really nice plays in run defense. They're still not getting any pressure up the middle, though, and that's where a lot of this problem is. The edge guys, are trying to get there, but the problem with blitzing 50% of the time like we have been, if you're not getting home, not knocking the quarterback off his marks, not getting in his face and making him uncomfortable, then you're leaving your guys out on an island, and that's where we're seeing these long passes. Keenan Allen had 18 receptions for 200 and some odd yards, and he threw a touchdown this week. Good evening, Dave. Good to see you. No such thing as a fluke. Wins your wins. Yep. Ingram and Bradbury just fold. Kirk gets killed. That's the thing that's worrying me the most about this coming soon here. I mean, Kirk has been an absolute Iron Man for his entire career. Say what you will about Kirk Cousins. The man either does not get hurt or he still plays through the issues. Like last year, he played with bad ribs for a good portion of the season. But one of these days, the law of average is going to catch up. Kirk is going to get leveled, and he's not going to get back up again. Situational football, don't see it this year. Yep, that's what we were talking about earlier. This one here too, Robert. Thank you for bringing this one up. Marcus Davenport, the $13 million train robbery. We signed this guy to come in here and all of a sudden shows up the Friday before the first game on the injury report, and he has played 4 snaps in 4 games. We could have just as well kept Zadarius Smith for that one because we're paying him the same amount of money, and at least Zadarius Smith gave us half a season of good play last year. Marcus Davenport, we're almost a quarter way through the season right now, and he, for all intent and Jerry, he played 4 snaps against Philly last week, and then his ankle started bothering him again, so he couldn't go. But yeah, he wasn't even active this week. That's why Andre Carter was active. And like I said, to Carter's credit, he got 3 pressures in 13 snaps or 15 snaps, or whatever it was that he played. So a little promising there. Allegedly. Truth is in between. Right now, I'm about ready to coin Marcus Davenport the new Brett Jones, where there are rumors upon rumors of the fact that he's real, but there is no actual proof of his existence. I mean, the guy's literally Sasquatch. I love how last year everybody was it the fluke they ain't that good this year? They all, oh yeah, yards your record says. That's true, Doc. Because, I mean, if we weren't a 13-4 team last year, which, okay, we got lucky a lot of times last year. I mean, we were 11-0 in one-score games. This year, we are 0-3 in one-score games. Good evening, Dan. Rebuild starts in the trenches. Trade JJ for future picks. Trade Hunter with a lot of spot needs improvement. I'm disagreeing with you there. You do not trade Justin Jefferson. The only way you even think about that is if Jefferson comes up and says to you, I don't want to be here anymore. I am not going to re-sign with you. I want to get out of here, you know, a la pulling a Stephon Diggs. Otherwise, you do not trade Justin Jefferson. You can trade – I would trade anybody else on this team, but I am not trading Justin Jefferson. To me, realistically, there's probably 3 guys that I don't trade right now. One of them is Justin Jefferson. One of them is Christian Darrisaw. And you can make an argument for TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson, I mean, for the issues that he had this week holding on the ball, he is either number 1 or number 2 in just about every statistical category for tight ends in the league. I think total yardage, he's like 6th, but everything else, he's 1st or 2nd. Brian here, I know being a minority, but Kirk, Hunter, and even JJ are available for the right price. There is no price for Justin Jefferson that I even listen to unless, hey, we're going to give you 4 number 1 picks, some second-round picks, and whatever player that you want off the team. Then I would maybe talk about it. Otherwise, I am not trading Justin Jefferson. I watched that happen when we got rid of Randy Moss because Red McCombs was trying to sell the team and was being too much of a cheap ass to pay him. You do not trade a generational talent. Justin Jefferson is not only the best wide receiver in the league currently, he is well on his way to being one of the, if not the best wide receiver of all time. You do not trade Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins, until the season is completely over with, now by the trade deadline, it might be. I don't entertain that either because, okay, you're going to turn it over to Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall for the rest of the season. Plus, you have to remember Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause. He can veto any trade that would come in. And honestly, where is Kirk going to go that makes sense for him to waive that no-trade clause for? For all the talk about the Jets, he's not going to go to the Jets because the Jets still have Aaron Rodgers under contract, and Aaron Rodgers has fully said he plans to come back and play. Now, granted, Kirk Cousins is 4 years younger than Aaron Rodgers, so they would have to let Aaron Rodgers go at the end of the year or whatever. But Kirk is not going to uproot his family for 7 games, knowing full well that, okay, if he goes to the Jets, the odds of him staying with the Jets beyond 2023 is pretty much nothing. So he's going to move his family for 5 months and then have to move them again. I don't see him doing that. Going back to your other picks here, Danielle Hunter. I mean, we get rid of Danielle Hunter, we have absolutely 0 pass rush. Hunter, although is one guy I could see by the trade line if we are completely out of it, that we try to trade to a contender and get something out of it. Didn't Red trade Moss for like a $1 million roster bonus? He got a first-round pick, which we turned around and turned into that year that we had picked Troy Williamson with 1 pick, and the extra pick we picked Erasmus James, both of which were epic failures. But yeah, Red McCombs was pissed that he couldn't get a new stadium built, and so he said screw it and was selling the team and didn't want to pay any extra money to Randy Moss, so that's why he traded him. What did Randy Moss win in his career? I mean, you have a point to that point, but again, you have to have something to give a fan base hope, even though maybe the team, I mean, Detroit had Barry Sanders, had Calvin Johnson, had, places with no hope. They at least give the fans something to be interested in, if nothing else. JJ makes any quarterback, you have a better quarterback. That's 100% true GMAC, and that's why. Because odds are we're going to go with a rookie quarterback next year. Justin Jefferson is going to make the life of that rookie quarterback that much easier because he is that damn good. JJ would take at least 3 firsts for me to even think about it. Yeah, I'm in that same boat, Doc. Robert would be like trading Mahomes. You don't do that. Did we win a Super Bowl with Moss or Carter? No, we didn't. But here again, on the rebuild side of things, if we expect to be competitive and that kind of stuff like we just talked about, Justin Jefferson is going to make that new quarterback that much better. I mean, you could put Christian Ponder back there and Justin Jefferson would have made him better. Jets won't be able to give what we want for Kirko. That's another very good point because even though they're still going to have their first-round pick next year because Rodgers is not going to play 65% of the snaps, technically by the letter of the law with the NFL, they can't trade that pick again until the season's over and it officially doesn't happen. Excuse me. So any draft picks we get from the Jets would have to be 2025 picks, which, I mean, you could still turn around and trade 2025 picks to help move up and get a quarterback or whatever else. But Hunter has a no trade clause as well. I forgot all about that, Dave. Thanks for bringing that up. So that, again, makes that one a little more of a sticky widget if you want to do that too. Next to 0 pass rush. To Dave's point, if he's with a no trade clause, that makes things a lot harder there. Wide receivers not winning a Super Bowl, but part of this, Dan, is appeasing the fan base too, because if you traded Justin Jefferson, this fan base would riot. And then you would start seeing empty seats at the stadium, regardless of what we are. If Justin Jefferson's on this team, you're still going to have people putting their butts in the seats, even if we're in a down year, just because he's that electric and he's that exciting to watch. Hunter would waive no trade to a contender like Jacksonville. Jacksonville's 1-2 right now. They're not looking so hot either. Now, I say if you're talking about people waiving their no trade clauses, I would say it would be more likely for Danielle Hunter to do so than it would be for Kirk. But need new players on both sides of the ball, at least 2 players. We got to rebuild the trenches, your interior offensive line and your defensive line. I mean, somebody like Harrison Phillips right now, he's playing nose tackle. He's not a nose tackle. He should be playing at the end. Kiris Tonga was a healthy scratch this week, and they got Jacalyn Roy in, but Roy only played a handful of snaps. Get him in there, get him some more, see what he can do if you're not happy with what's going on. Otherwise, Dean Lowry, like I mentioned earlier, has been a massive disappointment. I liked Lowry when he played for Green Bay, but he hasn't done anything since he's been here. Half the time I forget he's even on the field because of the lack of overall production and everything else that he's done out there. I think he's got, I think I remember them calling his name once or twice during if it was either the Tampa game or the Eagles game, I forget which one. I think it was the Tampa game because the Eagles ran all over us and nobody did anything up front. But I heard KOC say to you, fumble, you're sitting, the RBs are sitting. Now, again, with the running back situation, I know a lot of people are ripping on Alexander Madison. And yeah, he had that one fumble. The one should have been a fumble where we got lucky and they called forward progress, stopped. I mean, when he held onto the ball, he was running fairly well on Sunday. Ty Chandler, I think he only had like 7 carries or whatever, or what it was even that much. I mean, he had some explosiveness coming out there. I don't know why Chandler didn't get more of a run with this. Now, of course, we got Cam Akers, who's going to come back in again. Ryan's out of the box comes from Viking spin. Sign Kirk and JJ to long-term contracts and use the offseason to focus on the trenches. Love that idea because Kirk has another 4 or 5 years at a high level. The problem with that becomes to sign Kirk to another. I mean, Kirk had offered to sign for 3 years during the offseason. The Vikings only wanted to go a year. But to sign Kirk Cousins to even a league average contract right now, you're going to put Kirk at 40 to 45 million a year. Put that on top of the contract we just paid TJ Hawkinson, which is 17 million a year. Justin Jefferson's going to command 35 probably. Christian Darrisaw is going to be coming due for a contract in a year. You're not going to be able to fill the rest of the roster out, and we're going to be in the same boat that we were in before with Spielman and the other contracts. We're not going, and you know, Kwesi's first draft didn't help things out because right now that 2022 draft is looking abysmal. We've got almost no production out of anybody out of that draft. Robert, only way you bring him back is at a big discount. Don't see him doing that. I can see Kirk. I mean, Kirk likes Minnesota. He does. I could see Kirk giving them some sort of a discount, but I can't see him giving it. You know, I saw somebody today, Kirk will sign for 25 million or 30 million or whatever it was to come back, then we'll re-sign him. If I'm Kirk Cousins, I don't sign for that. Because when you start looking at somebody like Daniel Jones making $40 million a year, you got Burrow and Mahomes. Now, granted, Burrow and Mahomes are both better quarterbacks than Kirk is. Burrow been dealing with injuries this year, but by and large, yes. You know, you're talking $50 to $55 million a year. Even with all the knocks on Kirk and everything like that, you are still going to be looking at $40 to $45 million a year as a reasonable salary for Kirk. Kirk is worth that. Is he worth that to us? Probably not, because we have too many other needs, too many other holes, and things like this. Wouldn't pay him more than 30. Yeah, the problem is he's not going to sign for 30. Kirk is gone soon. No way we sign him long term. I don't really see a clear path to how we can. 41 is the age where the quarterback falls apart. Actually, it's closer to like 38. You've got, you know, most guys by that time are done. You got outliers like Brady or Rodgers, but you start looking at guys like Matt Ryan, who's 36, 37. He's washed. Peyton Manning fell apart at 38, 39, whatever he was. You know, it's right in that it's in that 37 to 39 range is more where stuff, Dave, 35 is kind of the high water point. 35, 36, you know, you start seeing it, but the significant drop off typically is going to come around that 37 to 38. I'd sign for that. Moving sucks, and he's made enough money for the next 3 generations of his family. There is that argument, Doc, and maybe Kirk would look at it that way. I don't know that he would, because I still think he wants to get one more significant contract before he retires. School for Life, good evening. But, you know, here the other thing is, okay, if we're a rebuilding team and we don't really have realistic aspirations of going to a Super Bowl or anything like that, then what is the actual point of bringing Kirk back at that point? You're better off bringing in a young guy, letting him take his lumps for a year or two while you rebuild the defensive line, while you rebuild the offensive line. So in 2025, 2026, we are loaded for bear, and ready to make a run at that point. And then your rookie quarterback still has 2 to 3 years left of team-friendly control on that rookie deal. And you have been able to build up, get some defensive linemen in here that are worth a damn, get somebody in here to replace Ingram, to replace Bradbury, that kind of stuff. Rivers was 39. Rivers was highly ineffective his last year. Peyton Manning, his last 2 years after he had that shoulder surgery, you look at that Super Bowl he won before yet. He didn't win that Super Bowl. He could barely throw the ball at that point in time. It was their defense that won him that Super Bowl. Rivers kept playing because diapers are spendy. Yes. We go with a young quarterback. Jefferson's going to force his way out. He wants to win. Conversely on that, Ryan, so are we just going to keep bringing in veteran quarterbacks for the next 10 years until Justin Jefferson is no longer effective because he doesn't want to play with a rookie quarterback? Justin Jefferson is smart enough. I think he sees the writing on the wall that, I mean, he may like playing with Kirk. I'm sure he does because they've had great success over 3 years together. But Justin can also see the big picture where, okay, we're paying all this kind of money, and he made a comment about it before. He knows that he's coming due with a life-changing contract, but the team still has to be able to be competitive. You are not going to be able to fix the defensive line, the offensive line, and keep guys like Christian Darrisaw if you're paying a wide receiver $35 million, you're paying a tight end $17 million, you're paying a quarterback $45 million. You know, that kind of stuff. And this is not a knock on Kirk. I'm not trying to turn this into a Kirk rip session, but if we have aspirations of someday winning a Super Bowl, which all of us want, I don't think there's anybody, at least no reasonable people in this fan base, that are content not winning a Super Bowl. We have to make tough decisions. You build around that good young core. Justin Jefferson's 24, Hawkinson is 26, Darrisaw's 24, somewhere in there. Ivan Pace Jr. now a rookie coming in. You've got some pieces in some key spots, young guys that are a good core to build around. And you just need to build that stuff up. I still don't think that Jefferson's going to force his way out if Kirk's not here, Ryan. I don't. I really don't. He's not Stephon Diggs. Explain how we get a good quarterback in the draft. We aren't tanking. Right now, we're not having to tank. If the season was over right now, which of course it's not, we'd be picking third overall. You have the ability to trade up in the draft to get a quarterback. Are we going to trade all the way up and get a Caleb Williams? Probably not. Because whoever has the number one overall pick, unless it's somebody like the Houston Texans or Carolina who just got their quarterbacks, last year, they're probably not going to give it up. Chicago probably has the inside track right now for the number one overall pick. If they get it, they're taking Caleb Williams, and you're not going to get it away from them. But you have other guys that are up there. You have Drake May, who I would definitely take. Guys like Quinn Ewers, who is looking good, and I think there's a lot of potential there. Then you have, other guys that are questionable. You have your Bo Nixes and that kind of ilk, which I don't necessarily fall into that category. But it's so early in the season yet we don't know who's going to come out, who's not, and that kind of stuff. So, James, they need to focus on the defensive line and cornerback. I would say defensive line and interior offensive line. But we still have to have a Michael Penix. I haven't made up my mind on him yet. There are good things about him. There are bad things about him. He's injured right now. I think he's got a leg injury or something like that. But he's another name that's been throwing out there. I would tend to agree with you on that. Right now, I think we're probably, I picked us at 11-6 to start the season. I think as we sit now, we're probably going to be closer to that 7-10, 8-9, maybe. But that puts us at, say, 15. Last year, Carolina was at 8. They traded up to number 1. They got Bryce Young. Like Drake may a lot severely doubt Kwesi makes the trade. Rumor was in the draft this year that if Bryce Young had fallen, and hadn't been taken number 1, the Vikings were ready to move up to go get Bryce Young. Now, whether that would have been a good move or not, we don't know yet. But I have heard from multiple sources that there was a very strong possibility that that was going to happen. So I'm not going to discount anything that Kwesi or the draft staff would do at this point in time, because we really don't know for sure. He hasn't done enough yet. Last year, it was awful. We know that. We can give him a little bit of a pass on that, being it was his first year. He's never done it before, that kind of stuff, whatever. Still had Spielman's scouting team and stuff doing it. Florida State quarterback looks good too. No, I am not a Jordan Travis fan. Florida State quarterbacks, they're like they never pan out in the NFL. I mean, you look at Chris Wanke, you got Christian Ponder, you got EJ Manuel. They're system quarterbacks that play well in that system, but when they get to the NFL, they're not successful. So I'm out on Jordan Travis. I am. Same reason I'm out on Ohio State quarterbacks. I wouldn't have taken C.J. Stroud this year either. Now, C.J. Stroud so far has looked good, but then you look at Justin Fields, who came out and was supposedly the greatest thing since canned beer, sliced bread, and whatever all else this year, and he looks worse this year than he looked last year. Never in a draft do you drop 22 spots for 0. Yeah, get Davis Mills from the Texans. Davis Mills is just a guy. He'd be a good backup. Davis Mills is not a starting quality quarterback. Ryan Bryce Young think he'll do well. I think the kid is smart, and he's undersized. He seriously looks like the Make-A-Wish kid out there getting to play with the big boys. He's so small out there, but I think he's smart enough, and he's got enough of that mojo that I think he'll be fine. Trishita straight trash Knowles. Yep. Inside joke for those of us on the Gallerhorn group with our buddy Anthony, who is a Florida State fanatic. Do you think Fields can be saved? I don't think so, Doc. The only way he's going to be effective is if you put him in a Greg Roman type offense like what they used to use with Lamar Jackson. You maybe something as a backup to a Jalen Hurts type, where they have that, where he's a read option quarterback and you're going to be running more, just letting him freelance and do that kind of stuff. You might get something out of him that way. But, they put him in a pro style offense, West Coast style offense this year, and he's showing that he can't run that. Last week he threw his coaching staff under the bus, saying that there's too much stuff going on for him to process and all that others, going through the headphones. Both him and Kyler know fixing him. I think Kyler Murray's biggest problem is his desire. I don't think the talent is a problem. I think it's his desire, and I think it's, they always say they have the pre and post whenever the new Call of Duty comes out. They have all of Kyler Murray's stat stuff because he's more concerned about playing Call of Duty than he is about watching film and preparing for games and that kind of stuff. So that's Kyler Murray's biggest problem, I think. Davey Chains, good evening, and a very good point. We have 14 games left to play. Let's play those out before we talk about tearing down the house. And to that point, I still don't think that the Wolves are going to sign off on a complete and total tear down to the studs. That's where this whole competitive rebuild thing came from, because the Wolves have almost an irrational fear of being bad. They think that if we have a couple of seasons where we're 6-11, 5-12, whatever, that the fans aren't going to show up. What they failed to realize is that we as Vikings fans have had our hearts ripped out, stomped on, and everything else for 62 years now. We can handle 1 or 2 bad years. It might suck, but we can handle it. Ball security could be 2-1 easily. I argue we should be 3-0 right now. Philadelphia was not that good. I didn't think we should have beat them. We don't turn the ball over against Tampa, we win. We don't turn the ball over twice in the red zone. Yesterday, we win. And we get that one turnover that we should have had when it went off of Caleb Evans' hands when it was right here. There's still bright spots on this team for this season, and the season probably still can be saved, but it's going to take some soul searching. It's going to take some self-awareness, and it's going to take more discipline, holding on to the ball, doing all this other stuff, not being careless out there, not making dumb penalties at very inopportune moments, that kind of stuff. It's, for all the good luck we had this last year, we're getting it all back in bad luck this year. I mean, it's reverting to the mean, law of averages, whatever. KOC needs to keep his foot on the throttle, needs to stop holding them back. Absolutely. That's a big gripe I have with O'Connell is he's almost out there playing the gentlemanly game and not, look at Mike McDaniel yesterday, put 70 points up on Denver, which as crappy as the rest of the entire weekend was, seeing Sean Payton get 70 points dumped in his lap made my day, made me feel a whole lot better. Ryan, we should sign both Akeem and Linval, get serious about fixing things. I will agree on the Akeem Hicks thing. I think Akeem Hicks has got something there yet that he could help out this line. And if people noticed earlier last week, he was kind of flirting with Vikings Twitter a little bit, appreciating the love he was getting and the fact that we wanted to bring him in here. Linval Joseph, full disclaimer, I love me some Linval Joseph, the big goon. I loved him when he was here, the whole, especially the sunglasses and that fumble return he had against Philly a few years back. But the problem with Linval is his knees aren't in very good shape anymore. I talked to a source that has talked to Linval themselves, and this was last year, they asked him why he hadn't signed with anybody, and the comment was made that he was having knee issues and things like that. Philly just picked him up as kind of a role player. So, I mean, if you want to bring him in for 10, 15 snaps a game, you could probably do that and get by with it yet, but he's not going to be a 30 snap a game type guy for you. So kind of depends on what you want to do with that, I guess. Should be putting 50 up on Carolina. Akeem Hicks should have been here. I mean, there's still time to get him in, but I don't know right now. Vikings Twitter is trying to will it into existence. They basically did it, they're taking credit for it anyway with Dalton Reisner. Now they switched over to Akeem Hicks to try to get him in. Linval and Sue are more of a one down maybe player. Yeah, you have men on. And Ndamukong Suh, I'm completely out on him. The guy's 36 years old. He showed last year when he was with the Eagles, has almost nothing left. So the ship has sailed on Sue. Linval, you could make an argument where, you're going to get him in on first downs, maybe second downs, obvious running play, short yardage type stuff. Anything more than that, you're probably not going to get a lot out of him. Right now it's not working. Fair point. But, if you get Akeem Hicks in here, I think you can he still, I think, has enough left in the tank where he could play, probably not an every down guy, but you can get at least 2 downs out of him, most first and second downs kind of thing. KOC and Quasey are 2 reactionary. Somebody needs to make decisions. That is absolutely true, and that is a big gripe I have with them. Like I said, I'm willing to be patient with them because we know the situation that they inherited. But that is a reactionary thing. It seems like we can't be proactive on any of this stuff. We can't get out in front of teams. I mean, Kirk has even said that where, we need to go out and jump out on teams so that it makes things easier on the defense, and we can go off. It's okay to beat a team by more than 3 points. I mean, you can win by 2-3 scores. I mean, there was a lot of that shown. Kansas City over Chicago, Miami over Denver, Arizona over the Cowboys. So, hey, Justin, good evening. I think Hicks has the most potential. Yep, out of that group, definitely I agree with you. Score for life, 100% on that one. Jared bringing in Dr. Vinny Bumbats. Okay. Bring Brock Lesnar. I don't think Brock Lesnar's not coming back to play football. But, Anyway, guys, we've been ranting for almost an hour now. I got an angry face from somebody on Facebook. Apparently they didn't like what we were saying on here, but that's okay. Hey, a like is a like and a dislike is a dislike. Nobody, not everybody can like what we're liking here, but just need some big dudes. Absolutely. Miss anything you can steal? Justin, there is so much stuff. I mean, we're literally at 57 minutes on the rant, and I am about out of breath because I haven't stopped since we started here. But anyway, with that, I think I'm going to call it here because there's some Monday Night Football going on. If you have not done so, hit that like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe so you never miss an episode. Make sure you go check out Justin's show here at 8 o'clock, Purple and Gold for Days, on his YouTube channel. Great show, more great conversation and stuff there. Again, check out all the other content creators out there. Vikings First and Skol with Tyler Fornes and Dave Stefano and Dan, everybody else over there. The Two Old Bloggers show, with Dave and Darren Camel. Purple and Gold for Days, Minnesota Sports Talk, Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. All of the shows out there, GG Sportscast, Purple Pocket, everybody, JJ Vikes. So many good shows out there. We all love doing this stuff for you guys. Want to thank everybody who has stuck with us for the entire episode here, for listening to the rants and having good discussion about all this stuff. This is why I love doing the live shows, because I get to interact with you guys, get your opinions. We can discuss things over, that kind of stuff. So yeah, Doc, Robert, Ryan, Jer, Brian, Justin, all is Doc, everybody over there, Worthless Opinion, Skull for Life, everybody that I'm missing in there. Again, the Filipino fan club, Nonoy, Jen, BB, Wilma, all you guys halfway across the pond watching the show over there. All that stuff. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Make sure you tune in Wednesday, where Brunswick will have another episode of Brunswick's Best. Looking at number 22 this week, so there should be a couple of good players on that list anyway, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And Friday night, Lance and I go live with the Vikings Uncensored Studio show, 6 p.m. Central Time, where we will preview the Carolina Panthers game and get Lance's opinion on some of the stuff we talked about tonight. And, we'll hit everything on that, so you guys make sure you join in, bring your comments, bring your questions, all that stuff. Lance and I will hit that live on Friday. And with that, Vikings, let's get to work this week. Let's get shit figured out. And let's go to Carolina next weekend and get that first win of the season. So with that, again, thank you all for watching. And we'll see you Wednesday for Brunswick's Best and Friday for the live studio show. Have a good rest of your night, everybody.